So we've been telling you for months about the mayhem engulfing America's streets. Crime rates have skyrocketed in major cities as Democrats simultaneously pushed to defund police all across America. But tonight, we have some good news in the liberal war against law enforcement. Minneapolis, the epicenter of the defund police movement, has done a complete 180. They have reversed over a year of policies to defund the police with their new city budget. It includes just over $191 million for the police department, restoring its funding to nearly the level it held before George Floyd was killed in 2020. So essentially, Minneapolis is right back where they started from. But at what cost? In the months that the city council looked to hamstring their own police department, countless lives were needlessly lost in Minneapolis, including 6-year-old Anaya Allen, who was fatally shot while eating McDonald's in her family car. Or 9-year-old Trinity Otteson Smith, whose life was tragically shut short while jumping on a trampoline at her birthday party. These children were the cost of the Minneapolis City Council chasing a trend, a perverted fad to buy off votes and popularity. How did we get here? Well, let's take a look back to the summer of 2020. It was a feel-good time for the left, full of burning government buildings, police cars on fire, utter lawlessness. And it's an era that Democrats would fondly call the summer of love. And to deal with that chaos engulfing their streets, liberal leaders had the great idea to defund their police departments. Now, as we told you, it didn't pan out. It ended terribly. Curbing the resources of your police force didn't suddenly stop criminals, and as any logical or sentient person would know, it had the opposite effect. In June of 2020, the Minneapolis City Council had, quote, unanimously approved a resolution declaring the intent to create a transformative new model for cultivating safety. Well, it proved disastrous. Since 2019, the last full year before the defund movement, homicides in the city jumped from 37 to 79, while violent crime surged from just over 3,700 to 4,800. When it comes to murder, that is 47 lives that were needlessly lost. 47 people, 47 families that paid the price of that perverted fad. So, after finally enduring this crime wave, they restored police funding. Now, I'm glad. I'm happy for the people of Minneapolis that they're more safe today than they were before this movement. But how do you explain that to the citizens who lost their loved ones? How do you explain that to that 47 families? They just collateral damage? The price to pay in being popular, incurring a little more of your voting base. Now, it's not just Minneapolis either. How about Oakland? Oakland, California also acknowledged recently, within the past week, the stupidity of the defund movement. Just last week, their city council backtracked on cuts to police funding and voted to add officers to the streets. Why? Of course, you know why. Surging crime rates. Again, I'm happy for the people of Oakland. But what was the price? Just ask one media crew. How about the NBC sports crew who was in the city this last weekend? They were robbed at gunpoint Saturday morning trying to do their job, to cover something in Oakland. It's not isolated, by the way. This is the third robbery of a news organization in Oakland in 2.5 weeks' time. So we've gotten to the point where the media is part of the story, but not in their traditional way of being an advocate in the media that takes place here in studios here in New York City, but becoming a victim in this story. They're now part of the story in Oakland. And if you thought this was contained to just violent crime, think again. How about this? The CEOs of Target, Best Buy, and CVS, and other retail chains, they're asking Congress. They wrote a letter to Congress asking for help amid the surge in retail theft from their stores. You've seen the smash and grab videos by now. You can't get batteries. I can't go to CVS without it being locked up. The deodorant is under lock and key. These are the same companies, by the way, that paid ransom to BLM and now want protection from the policies that they paid for. At least the leaders in Minneapolis and Oakland have come to their senses. They've taken the L. They've moved on. How about those CEOs? Here in New York City, by the way, outgoing mayor and world-renowned Bigfoot impersonator Bill de Blasio, he's turning a blind eye to crime. It's filled the streets of the Big Apple. Under de Blasio, murders have jumped significantly from 269, that's back in 2017, up to 443 this year. There's still a couple of weeks to go. How does de Blasio, by the way, respond to that spike in murders?
8 years I've been mayor. Index crime, major crimes in New York City down 11% over 8 years. And we did it bringing police and community closer together. So the key is to overcome this horrible patch we've had in the COVID era all over this country. The bottom line is that there is, today in New York City, a much safer city than we were 8 years ago.
Oh, it's safer, except for, murder. And the families of those victims, by the way, here in New York, they know firsthand that Bill de Blasio is lying and will continue to lie. Now, what's most troubling about this is it's not new and it wasn't unpredictable. Democrats have historically been soft on crime, not just in big cities, but all across this country. And the American people have completely lost faith in the ability of Democrats to keep them safe. Look at this poll from ABC. 36% of Americans approve of the way Joe Biden is handling crime. 61% disapprove. So how do Biden and the Democrats convince people they can keep your streets safe? Well, maybe by starters, they could actually take crime seriously. For example, maybe Joe Biden and Kamala Harris could visit Waukesha, Wisconsin. You remember Waukesha, the site of the Christmas parade massacre, described, if you're confused, on CNN as a big car accident. It wasn't. It was a massacre. And the White House is responding by sending in the First Lady Jill Biden and Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff to the site of this tragedy. Now, if you're one of the families of the dancing grannies who were senselessly murdered, is that what you want to see? Is that who you want to see? The Second Gentleman? Look, I'm not hating on Doug here, but can you think of a title that carries less gravitas? Second Gentleman? By the way, could you pick Doug Emhoff out of a lineup? Let's try. Take a look here. Which one of those guys is Doug Emhoff? Just pick one. Can you really do it without going to Google right now? I think it's not the one on the far right. My suspicion is the people of Waukesha won't know who they're talking to either, and they'll have to be told, oh, it's the Second Gentleman. Look, maybe if Democrats took crime seriously, they would send someone in who could actually change policy, a politician who cares, a prosecutor willing to prosecute crime, or a radical idea. How about a cop to stop crime before it happens? How about not the Second Gentleman? How about not the second string for a photo op?
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.